Ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's alright. I'm hooked on a feeling, I'm high on believing that you're in love with me.
Welcome to the Bill and Nieces Coaches Show. This is week 3, actually combined weeks 1 and 2, as the Indians have already started their season 2-0 with a win from the team down south, defeating Troy 26-10, and then this past Friday at Butler with their first road game, 43-18. And with us is Coach Niece. Great start to the season. If you were to draw it up anyway, 2-0 is not a bad start at all.
It's a great start, and the best thing is we're going into week 3 and we're injury-free. I think that's important. We're going to continue to build depth in our program, and I think that's important, and those are the two biggest things that we thought over the last couple of years had hurt us a little bit, and the fact that we weren't able to replace sometimes when people have got injured and or replace with somebody of the same quality, and I think we're able to do that this year, and we look forward to continue to do it as the year goes on.
Coach, we'll talk a little bit about the games, but just in general, depth-wise for the Indians, a little different than what we've had the last couple of years. We have some luxuries of having some people that can play a couple different depths of having someone of a second team necessarily coming in and can just play right now. That really helps, particularly, for example, Friday, Lance wasn't able to play because of a knee, but he had Tate Adams come right in there and really didn't lose a lot.
I know, I didn't think we did, and also in the fact that we've got three outstanding inside linebackers, and the unfortunate thing is we can only use 2 at a time, so that allowed us to play another package, which is our 3-3 stack package, which allowed then only 3 defensive linemen, and then to put all 3 of those insides in at the same time too. So it also gave us a little bit of flexibility, so to speak, in terms of the defensive fronts.
Coach, this season looks a lot different than previous years, obviously, just because, as we talked about in the preseason on Media Day, with the pandemic and not having scrimmages and 7-on-7, we really didn't have a good evaluation. Our first evaluation was week 1 when we had our first game against Troy. Going from a 10-game season to a 6-game season, our routines are similar, but yet there are some differences. What have you seen thus far to be a different season for our team and getting them ready to play football?
I think right now we haven't hit a lull at all in the fact that usually after you've had 3 scrimmages and but we cut back on the 2-a-days quite a bit. Usually there's going to be a couple days where you're going to have to kind of get the blow torches out and get people moving in the right direction. And I think that has not happened so far this year. And also, like I've said, everybody's fresh. We don't have a lot of those little nagging injuries. There's always somebody that's got this doesn't feel good, this doesn't feel right, things like that. And we just don't have that so far this year.
Coach, let's talk a little about the Troy game. First time since 1981 that we opened up with Troy. To play your rival in week 1, obviously there was a lot of excitement to that. And it was the first time we actually had an opportunity to play someone and have contact with someone else other than ourselves. What was that like going into that game and preparing for a team that we hadn't seen? And actually it was the last time we had a football game was against Troy.
It was unique in the fact that we didn't have any distractions with any scrimmages. Unique in the fact that we haven't started school yet. So I think those are the 2 big ones. And as you said, it was interesting, after the Troy game or during the week of Troy game, we start pulling up, the templates for scouting reports, the templates for grading, and everything had Troy already on it from game 10. So that was interesting and in a way. And we had really thought that we didn't play to our potential. I'm sure they thought that they didn't play to their potential for first week of the season. We didn't think we really did a great job week 10 of last year, and then to be able to come in right off the bat and get the things corrected, the things that we had been working on all summer. You take a week and say, okay, these are the things we need to get done, because we didn't play well against so-and-so, and you break down each, segment of summer for each team. Well, Troy, we were able to spend almost 3 weeks on that, plus some of the stuff we'd already done before we knew that we were going to play them. We didn't know all summer we were going to play them. It wasn't like that happened early. So once we were able to get that and start zeroing in on that, it was outstanding. All the countdown clocks, everything involved in that is just, pinpoint focus right to them.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about that game in itself. Winning and coming out of the gates the way we did really came out really well. But when you look at the stats, a lot of things are very similar, but the one thing that sticks out is the turnovers. They had 4 turnovers. We didn't have any. Tail the tape for a lot, but that really set the tone of the game.
I think it did. And around here we keep track of really 2 statistics. And a lot of, you can sit and go through almost everything, whether or not it be time of possession, third downs, first downs, et cetera, et cetera. We keep track of 2 things. We keep track of big plays, and we keep track of turnovers. On offense, and on defense, we keep track of big plays and takeaways on defense, because we like to think sometimes they give the ball away and other times they get it taken away. And I thought at least 3 of those situations were takeaways. Ronnie Coleman down in the end zone, that was a jump ball, and he ripped it out. I think Medley, that was a takeaway. Very rarely if we had a safety that can come across, and do that, that type of play. And so I thought those were 2. And then Sammy Smeezing was able to strip the ball out, on a run play. So I think those were all important in the fact that they were aggressive actions that we took the football away.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the things that stood out in my mind after the game. There's turnovers, but then there are what we call, what you said, takeaways or forced turnovers, and we really did, our defensive pressure forced them to make some plays, maybe some plays that they wouldn't have wanted to make, but we went out and got the ball a couple times, like you talk about Ronnie Coleman and Medley. We got a tough backfield. Defensively, we're really tough, but boy, we really make people think twice before they throw the ball.
Well, I think the back end of our defense, took some poundings last year. We finished last in the league in pass defense. And that's something that when you bring all 4, 5, 6 guys, 6 of your back end guys back, and those guys all know that, and they're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, and they're more experienced, I think that's going to make a big difference.
Well, the Indians prevailed in a 26-10, and again, a nice takeaway leading into an interception by Tanner Kemp there right at the end to seal the game. The Indians get the Traditions Trophy back here in Piqua. That series continues to be competitive. Coach, we had this conversation. People forget this series is we've played 136 times. And as close as there's a 2-game differentiate between the 2 schools and wins, and it's not it's been a series of streaks. A team gets 2 or 3, the other one gets 2 or 3. We had won, I believe, 4 previous to that. They had won 4, and we're back. So it has certainly been a game of streaks, and people, I think we had talked about the pendulum was starting to swing over to the Indian side, and not to say the old school saying of it was time, but it was time.
Well, I think everybody on our part, it's hard. It's hard to continue something going. It's just as hard to get something going. We know that, building something up, but man, you get in that thing and you almost get to the point where you're looking around too much and you're not focusing on what you're supposed to be focusing on. And I thought we really had a key focus during the game. I thought everybody played what they were supposed to do and played very well. And we were fortunate to go in the game and not turn the ball over. And then, like you said, I don't know if they might have scored when they were going down the field there, and it might have been an onside kick opportunity. And Tanner Kemp just stepped right in there. And you say, well, that was it was a mistake on their part, but there's a lot of times you can drop an interception. You start running too fast, whatever. And he was able to catch it and run and ice the thing. It was a great way to end after the totally terrible performance we had last year, Game 10, to end the first game of the season this way was exceptional.
Well, we had there were a lot of great offensive plays in that game. Uhl to Uhl. Uhl had Brady had a nice run in on a quarterback keeper. A lot of good plays offensive. We talk about our defense, but we also have some great weapons offensively, and it showed that night as well.
Yeah, it is, and it's showing through that we can make big plays. We call them chunk plays, and we can do it. We have that ability that at any given moment we can take the ball over the top. We think we're pretty good at that. Brady can put the ball down and run. He runs his own read and a couple of our reads. He runs our power read very well, and he's got 4 unbelievably fast running backs that are all back there that can stay fresh, and our inside receivers are getting better as we speak. So we've got a good combination of a lot of weapons on offense.
Well, we're going to continue to talk about those weapons as we go throughout the season. And speaking of season, we have the big one with Troy, week 1. You have to, unlike week 10 where you have maybe a breath to settle, we now have to play week 2, and we go on the road to get ready for a very good Butler program, a very good Butler team, to go down there and get that win 43-18. What was the focus of it that week, though, coming back after the Troy game, knowing that we had to get back on the road and have to play again?
Well, we didn't really have to remind anybody. And sometimes when you come in and say, high school kids are interesting sometimes in the fact that they don't think quite as much about stuff as we adults do, and they don't analyze stuff as much as we do. So I think it would have been a mistake on my part to come in and go, hey guys, okay, now we got to refocus this week. We can't be thinking about Troy. We got to think about Vandalia. And all of a sudden you plant a seed in their mind, and they're thinking, well, we weren't thinking about Troy. We were thinking about Vandalia the whole time. All right, so I think sometimes you just take it week by week and you play it week by week, and I think they just cruise right along with it. They got so many other things going on, with school, girlfriends, and everything like that. They come in. You come in Monday. Today we came in and said, it's Labor Day. We're rocking Greenville. Forget about anything else. And they said, let's go.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Butler game. Let's break that down. Really come out in the first quarter and really had a great start. Put them on their heels a little bit, up 17-0. Talk about that offense that we were talking about before. We can score in big chunks, and boy, did we do that in a hurry.
Yeah, we did. We actually had one touchdown called back even. We had a lineman get downfield. And I thought we started off very good. I thought one of the highlights of it was, this is the last part, right before the half. You always have that situation. Well, do we sit on it? Do we, get in at halftime? And we decided we were going to, keep the foot on the gas pedal. We got a big play. We got a second big play, and Jackson Trombley is in our mind a weapon. Our kicker, and I had no problem, trying to work a field goal from the 20-yard line. We really think he can do it, and it's probably a little bit longer than that. And again, the breaks went our way. We had a bobbled snap a little bit, and it's something we work on a lot. We work on it a lot. That if those guys here fire, they don't go downfield, except for our receivers who were eligible. And Jarrell Lewis got out, put his big hand up in the air, and Brady hit him the ball, and Austin Burns was able to get downfield, get him a couple key blocks, and what a momentum changer to be able to go in there. And we've been on the other side of that sometimes, where you just have something and you say, what, that actually happened? And I think Vandalia, that was tough on them, to be able to deal with that.
Well, let's backtrack to that play, because the lead up to that play was we're up 17-0, and they get some momentum. We turn the ball over, they get some momentum, and we are back right before that play. 3 plays before that, we are, I think, maybe at the 15. I'm not quite exactly sure, but we move the ball pretty quickly up the field in 3 or 4 plays. You talk about big chunks, and Brady able to read and power plays and things of that nature. Because of that, before we get to the opportunity to kick field goal, we made plays and clock management. Obviously, that's a great strategy on the coach's part, but to be able to execute on the player standpoint, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, and there's a million coaches that have great plans, but you still got to be able to carry those plans out. And I think that the fact that you prepare for certain situations, and the team we have this year, because we had so many kids back, we don't have to spend huge chunks of time with just fundamentals, repetition, in just small groups. We can get bigger group teaching sessions, and when you get the bigger group teaching sessions, you can get more situational stuff. And I think that's what we're able to do this year that we weren't able to do in the past, and that is to get into situational stuff, get more big picture type stuff.
Well, that also comes into having some veterans. You've got a veteran defense, and you've got some guys that have been through those experiences that you talked about. Maybe you've been on the other side. Now that we were able to dish it out, and as you said, we go into half up 23-10, and the momentum was on our side, and we just carried it through to the rest of that game. Coach, going 2-0 and winning on the road, something about winning at home, but there's also something about being able to do it and doing it in your white jerseys on the other opponent's home turf.
I think so, and I think it was our first shot at travel, and we really worked hard this year also at organizing our travel better, organizing our pregame a little bit better. And I got to give the assistant coaches a lot of credit for going out there and getting that thing implemented in terms of positions, making sure our quarterbacks and receivers are warmed up properly, make sure our kickers are warmed up properly, and everybody's in the right spot. And I think that's one of the keys when you're out on the road, especially now where you're limited on what time you can get there. No locker room, yes locker room, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of rules and regulations that you got to be following along with.
Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts with what this pandemic has brought us, and we've not talked a lot about that. But the one thing that we did that we'll find when we go on the road is we won't have a locker room. So we've got to find someone's our space, so to speak, and that we can feel like, hey, that's our area that we can get it. But it's our area to get ready to play football, not just as players but coaches. And there's something that's kind of a game within itself.
I think it is, and especially when you're traveling with 65 people, plus X amount of other people that are part of the travel squad to be able to go in there. And to be quite honest with you, there's a lot of places where there's not enough room for us anyway. The visitors' locker rooms at most high school football stadiums are not necessarily fine quality places that you want to hang out in to begin with. So it's not really, for us, it's not really a huge deal just to say we're going to go sit outside. Now, it could be if we're going to get a rainy night or a cold night or something like that, it might be a little bit more advantageous to the home team.
Well, moving forward and being advantageous for the home team, the Indians will be back home on Friday hosting Greenville. And Coach, we don't have to say Greenville has always been a big game for the Indians, and it's been a game where we typically enjoy playing them because we've had some competitive games for the years, and we expect that this team coming in, they're going to be ready to go, and they're going to be ready to play the Indians.
It was an outstanding game last year. They unfortunately had some turnover/takeaways. I thought the back end of our defense at that point, that was probably their turning point game in terms of those young guys caused some fumbles, did some things well, and I thought from that point on they played pretty well throughout the season. So they came in and had some high aspirations last year with a great senior class, and we were able to run the football for 301 yards. And anytime you can get over 300 yards rushing, so you're going to have a problem. And if you flip the ball over a couple times in takeaways, that's going to be a big problem. And Ronnie Coleman had 2 or 3 big chunk yards, and then you go back to that same thing, big plays and turnovers, key to the whole deal.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the live on the Indian station. The people will see here that the games now are live, which is helpful because a lot of people who can't get in the stadium because of capacity levels are able to watch it. What are those people who are going to be watching it live on Indian Nation Stadium expect to see from Greenville on a defensive standpoint?
Defensively, they run a defense similar to ours. They run an even front defense, and they'll run a shade package a little bit more than we do. And then on offense, they run a spread offense, usually from a 2x2 set. Then they'll jump into a 2-back offense, more of a power game. Mm-hmm. But we'll see a lot of jet sweep. We'll see a lot of power read off the jet sweep, which means the quarterback is looking at the defensive end. Defensive end goes outside. He's going to cut up under and keep the ball. If the end stays where he's at, then he's going to hand the ball to the jet motion guy that's coming across. It's a split-second read. It's probably one of the toughest reads in football. So hopefully our defensive ends can come up and make it a quicker read for him and cut out maybe about 1 second of decision-making for him.
Coach, one thing that we should mention, this has been a little bit different this year. There's been a lot of things different, but we actually will be starting school this week. Where up until this point, it's almost been like college, where these guys have just been playing football and going to practice and going home and taking care of themselves. Now they'll be back into a quote-unquote a routine, so to speak, where they'll be in school and then practice after school. I know you're a coach of routine. I would imagine that this will help, again, keep those guys focused on what we're doing day in and day out.
I think so, and we tried to emphasize last week that we need to make sure our kids are, our players were on a schedule. And even today, we bring them in at 8 o'clock in the morning. And what I was trying to tell them is, some of these guys, they'll start playing video games and they'll start, doing this and this and this, and they'll flip their entire life and become almost, vampire-ish, where they're up at night and sleeping during the day. And I said, if you don't change it, or if you slip into that mode, about 2 days into school, it's going to hit you. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to go home and sleep until like the next day or something. So I said, try to keep as best path as you can, on being scheduled, schedule your sleep, schedule your food, try to recover, things like that. And most of the kids listen. They really do. A couple of them, it'll be deaf ears, but generally they listen.
Let's talk a little about those kids. Two in particular, senior features this week: Clayton Campbell and Mr. Hepner, Jacob Hepner. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about both of those guys and what those guys have meant to the program, because both of those guys have certainly made an impact in one way, shape, or form.
Oh, they're company men for us. Back in the day, they've been to all of our camps and things along those lines. Hepner specifically, when you talk about him, he's been a 3-year starter for us. At one point, he played center for us when he was a sophomore. Did a little bit. A couple people got hurt, and then last year he played offensive tackle for us. I think he's really found a home this year at guard, and he's a hard-working kid who's been to a ton of offensive line camps, worked on his feet, probably one of our most improved players. And I think this year it shows quite a bit. He's bigger, stronger, and his technique has just been outstanding. And then C, as we call Clayton, is one of the guys I love to talk about, because he's not a starter for us, but he has been in the weight room and he has conditioned himself to the point where he can play on all of our special teams. And he's a special teams phenom. He's already, he come down there today and got a couple dots for our individual tackles on special teams. And he is just intense. He comes with intensity every day, and he gives us a great look on the scout team. When we look over and see him on Coach Smith's defense, when C's over there, you're like, yeah, put your mouth guard in. This isn't half speed. This is full go. And so we're really pleased with how those guys have progressed over the course of their careers.
Both of those guys are certainly great seniors and have put a lot of time and effort into it, as you said, and guys that really get after it for what is a good senior class, and we'll look forward to talking to some of those guys the rest of this year.
Excellent.
Coach, we certainly wish you luck as we move into week 3 and get ready for Greenville, and we take it one week at a time.
Definitely. We're 0-0 right now.
We'll be back for part 2. We will meet with C and Jacob Hepner when we return. Welcome to part 2 of the Bill Nieces Coaches Show. With us now is the senior features portion of our program. I'm going to have these gentlemen introduce themselves with their name and the position that they play.
Hi, my name is Clayton Campbell, and I play inside linebacker.
I'm Jacob Hepner, and I play O-line.
Jacob, let's talk with you. The Indians have off to a great start, 2-0 with a win over that team from the South, and then Butler on Friday night. What is it like for you right now, knowing that this team is rolling in 2-0 as we roll into Greenville week 3?
It's fun because you get to see how you improve each week, and then you get to go into the practice the next week and see what you can improve on, how you can keep rolling and get better.
Clayton, I'm sure for you, starting out 2-0 as a senior is a great start, but a bit of an unusual preseason with no scrimmages in the summer, no 7-on-7s, and really opening up with the biggest rival on our schedule, week 1. A lot of abnormalities to it, but things are starting to come back around a little bit to what seems somewhat of some normalcy.
Yes, sir. Words can't explain how happy I am for this team and how much we improve every single week. And I can't wait for the rest of the season to come.
Jacob, let's talk a little bit about goals and where we're at for this coming year. What are some of the things that we've got a shortened season, again, an unusual season? We went from 10 games to 6 games. now everybody gets in the playoffs instead of having to necessarily finish in the top 8. What are goals now that we know certainly we're going to play everybody in our league and our division, but also make the playoffs? From your perspective and what coaches are talking about, what are some of the things you'd like to see from this football team this year?
No, we want to go 6-0 and roll through the playoffs and get a state championship this year.
Probably nothing less then. Good for you, Hep. Clayton, from your perspective, what do you see this team's great strengths are? You see, we've got a blend of seniors and some underclassmen, some true talent. But what are some of the big strengths that you think that this ball club has?
Our defense overall, just tackling is pretty good. Our offense is rolling with passing and running. That's about it. Yeah,
good. Okay, that's good. Well, we certainly wish you guys luck as we roll through. Let's talk a little bit about future. Where are we going to be once you graduate? What are some of your plans once we get through to spring and you're walking across that stage with that diploma in your hand?
I plan to further my future going to the University of Cincinnati.
All right.
Studying criminology.
Well, good for you. Good. Bearcats. And how about you, Jacob? What's some things goals-wise you have moving forward?
Hopefully sign somewhere to play football at the next level and study criminal justice.
Got criminal guys in here. That's good. All right. No, nothing's going to get past you guys. Well, speaking of nothing getting past you guys, we certainly wish you guys luck this week as we take on Greenville. And I know it's coach always takes a bit of time, and we know you guys have put a lot of hard work into it. Thank you. Just a reminder that the game will be on live right here on the Indian Nation station on Friday. You can catch it here on YouTube. We also want to let you know that any tickets that would be available will be online and available to purchase on the Piqua City Schools website on Thursday afternoon at noon. Any additional tickets that would be, you could get them for a price of $5 online. There will be no gate sales on Friday evening at the gate. So for Chip Hare, I'm sitting here with Jacob and Clayton, and we will look forward to seeing you Friday night here at Alexander Stadium on the Indian Nation station as the Indians 2-0 look to host the Green Wave from Greenville. Have a good night, everybody.